Toastmasters and guests, it is my pleasure to welcome International President, Distinguished Toastmaster, Deepak Menon.
Welcome to the Golden Gavel celebration. We are honored to have with us the 2020 recipient of Toastmasters International's most prestigious honor, the Golden Gavel Award. Today, we recognize and celebrate this year's Golden Gavel recipient, Julian Treasure, author of How to Be Heard and Sound Business. We recognize Julian Treasure for his leadership in the field of business communication. The award also recognizes Treasure's extensive influence in helping people and organizations to listen better and create healthier and more effective sound, including speaking. Julian is the founder of the Sound Agency, an audio branding company. This company asks and answers the question, how does your brand sound? He works with some of the world's biggest brands to design their sound. Julian spent 30 years working in advertising and publishing. He founded, grew, and sold the contract magazine publishing agency TPD. Julian Treasure has also presented 5 TED Talks, which have been watched more than 100 million times. How to speak so that people want to listen is in the top 10 TED Talks of all time. It is with great pleasure that I welcome the 2020 Golden Gavel Award recipient, Julian Treasure.
Thank you, Deepak, and thank you, Toastmasters. I'm deeply, deeply honored. I'm a great proponent of Toastmasters. I recommend that people join you in every talk I give about speaking skills, in my book, and in my online course. You do a fantastic job in improving communication around the world, which is something that, as you know, I'm totally aligned with. Never have we needed clear, powerful communication more than today. I'll treasure this prestigious award, no pun intended, as we continue to work together to raise the world's consciousness and skill in spoken communication. Well, you've asked me to give a talk, and I'm thrilled to do so. And I'm going to move to picture-in-picture as I do that, so that I can use slides, my favorite way of presenting. Well, I'm very excited to speak to 45,000 people who are highly committed to powerful speaking. I feel I'm among kindred spirits, but of course, speaking is actually only half the equation. Effective communication requires something else, doesn't it? And that's listening. Now, most people see spoken communication like this, a simple straight line. I speak, you listen. That's it, right? Wrong. Because the relationship is not linear, it's dynamic. Actually, it's a circle, not a line. The way I speak affects the way you listen, and the way you listen affects the way I speak. And there's a third vital factor that determines how effective our communication actually is, the context in which the speaking and listening take place. Now, this is the model that underpins all my work, my books, my trainings, my TED Talks. The 3 things are always related. So if you want to be a powerful speaker, it's key also to understand context and to become a master of listening. What's at stake? Well, only 3 things: your happiness, your effectiveness, and your well-being. 3 pretty important things that are profoundly affected by how well you can speak and listen, and by the sound around you. They shape your destination in life and your experience on the journey to that destination. Today, I'm going to focus on the secrets of conscious listening and the forces working against it. And at the end, I have a special gift for you. But before we get into listening, I just want to spend a moment or two on context and then touch on speaking. don't think I could speak to Toastmasters without mentioning that now, could I? So what do I mean by context? I mean the sound around you. Context matters so much. The sound around us affects our bodies, our feelings, our ability to think, and our behavior, for good or for ill. Noise like this, sorry about that, if your alarm clock at home sounds anything like that, please do change it. Noise like that results in fight-flight hormones like cortisol, I just gave you a little shot of there. Noise also increases blood pressure, risk of heart attack, leads to negative emotions, tiredness, illness, as well as degrading your ability to think clearly and, of course, to sleep. But it's not all bad news. Pleasing sound stimulates endorphins and dopamine, reduces blood pressure, boosts immunity, creates good feelings, increases energy and well-being, and helps you to think and work better. Sound can be your friend or your enemy, and it's important to become conscious of it so you can start to control the context for your conversations. Now, whether you're back in the office or working in a home shared with others, you'll know all about ISE, the irrelevant sound effect. This can reduce your productivity by up to 2/3. It's made worse with variability, sounds that change. You can habituate to a constant sound. With density, sounds that demand your attention. And with association, for example, a baby crying, we all know means something needs to be done. So it's no surprise that the most distracting sounds of all are speech, other people's speech, music, which is very dense, and alarms, particularly ringing phones. But what sounds are beneficial then? See if you can guess what these letters stand for. I'm sure you got there. These sounds have been around far longer than humanity. Gentle examples of biophilic sound like this are not only pleasant, they've been proven to boost well-being and health. That's why my company, the Sound Agency, created Mood Sonic biophilic soundscapes to enhance well-being and productivity in offices and also in hospitals and education. Well, we launched this just in time for the global pandemic. However, our first installations are happening at last now with brilliant feedback, so we're very excited about the future of designed sound in built spaces. So I said I would mention speaking. I think I have to mention speaking to Toastmasters. Let me give you what I believe to be the 4 foundations of powerful speaking. They create a word, and the word is hail, which means to greet or acclaim enthusiastically. Can you guess what the acronym stands for? Well, the H is honesty, simply being clear and straight in what you say. The A is authenticity, being yourself. I'm not a great believer in artifice or performance. I think it's much more powerful to be fully expressed and genuinely yourself. The I is integrity, being your word. If you say it, and it always happens, your words have power. And the L, perhaps surprisingly, is love, by which I don't mean romantic love, I mean simply wishing people well. When you walk on stage, it's not about you. It's about the gift that you can give to the audience. And if you walk on looking forward to giving them that gift for their own well-being, benefit, growth, whatever it is, then you forge a relationship on a totally different level. Now let's focus on the main topic for today, which is listening. Why does listening matter? Well, it matters because it underpins all these vital things. We learn by listening. It's said that Pythagoras erected a screen so that his first-year students couldn't see the teacher. He considered vision to be distraction from the important business of listening. How can you lead or inspire people as well if you don't understand them? How can you sell or persuade people if you don't know what they really need? What's the most common complaint in relationships? He or she never listens to me. And conscious listening is always the doorway to understanding, which has never been more needed, I think, than today. Here's what Hemingway had to say, and I totally agree with him. I think he's right. If you become a master of listening, you're way ahead of most people. Listening is a skill. It's not a capability. It takes work, and it can be improved and mastered. Sadly, I think it's a dying skill. Why do I say that? Well, it starts with education. Here are the 4 ways we communicate: to send, to receive, to for the eyes, to for the ears. I present them here with equal weight, but that's not how we treat them in education, is it? Which is partly why Toastmasters exists. It's more like this. We barely teach children how to use the amazing instrument that we all play, the human voice. And even less so do we teach the silent skill of listening. It's a scandal if a child leaves school unable to read and write, but millions sadly leave every year with no idea that speaking and listening are key life skills. So it's no surprise that we develop bad habits. I want to highlight 2 of the most damaging ones, I think. These hurt both your speaking and especially your listening skills. Here's the first one: looking good. We all like to look good, of course, but if this becomes a prime motivation, it becomes a problem. Listening is about receiving. This kind of self-obsession is all about sending. So in the first place, the focus is all wrong. A common result of looking good or obsessively looking good is what I call speech writing. While this noise is going on in front of me, that's you speaking, I'm actually composing my next brilliant bit of dialogue, or rather monologue. This tends to give rise to the "anyway" non sequitur, which leaves the other person at best feeling disrespected. Other manifestations of looking good are being professionally unimpressible, or listening for competitive edge. Do you know someone who has to be bigger, better, more? The words "I know" become unhelpful in this context. After all, if you know everything, what are you going to learn? Now, if there's one thing we like more than looking good, it's being right. But this is fool's gold. As the American author Harville Hendrix said, you can either be right or be in a relationship. Being right can become addictive. And then it's not only cancerous for relationships, it's dangerous for society. The easiest way to be right is to make someone else wrong, which opens a slippery slope to caricature, depersonalization, and ultimately hatred and violence. Even in its milder form, this leads to poor listening, to interrupting, to dismissing people, or just not listening at all. So those are 2 habits which I do urge you to pay attention to and watch out for in your life. There are also some social changes which have really threatened our listening. First, we invented ways of recording things. First of all, writing, which came along only 4,000 years ago. You know, we've been speaking and listening with complex language for perhaps 150,000 years. So writing is quite recent. Ways of recording are quite recent. And now, of course, we can record audio and video. So, if you get tired with this, I'm sure you can check a recording later. The premium on careful listening has gone. And we become impatient with modern society. There's so much going on. Everything has to be in sound bites. We've got time poorness everywhere in the world, time poverty. So we are always rushing. We don't have time to listen, and listening takes time. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of truth in this cartoon, isn't there? Technology itself is not helping. FOMO, the fear of missing out, always wondering what else I could be doing. Listening takes presence, consciousness, time, dedication, and a total focus. And these are not things which we're training our children to do as they have 2 or 3 devices on the go at the same time. I'm sure you've never received this text, but our obsession with text-based communication means that this does get sent and it does get received. There's no listening in this. It's not a conversation, is it? Even if you don't get this one, I'm sure you get this, the blizzard of inbound communication, which makes us so frantic that the idea of putting everything down to listen to somebody is quite challenging. And as we come together in organizations, as poor listeners, we end up with organizations that are poor listeners. There was a big survey of organizational listening a few years ago, and I'm sad to say this is what it found. Now, you would hope that speaking and listening would be in some sort of balance like this, but that's not the case. What the Organizational Listening Project found is, and this was across large organizations and small ones, on average, they reported that they spent just 20% of their time, budget, and effort on listening, 80% on outbound. Think about it. When you say corporate communication, you immediately think of outbound communication. So it's no surprise that this is the case. It's also worth mentioning this was self-reported, so it's probably an exaggeration. We all like to think we listen more and better than we actually do. Out of interest, my TED Talk on speaking has 5 times as many views as my TED Talk on listening. So this kind of proportion seems pretty believable to me. Does it matter? Well, yes, it does. Because the organizations ranked as better listeners in the survey had better morale, higher customer and staff loyalty, better staff retention and productivity, and a better reputation. Those ranked at the bottom of the listening table suffered from more criticism and more frequent crises. Which side do you want to be on? So how can you improve your listening and also that of your organization? Well, first by understanding what listening is. We don't think about it much, and many people conflate it with hearing. You hear everything, even while you're asleep. It's a capability. But in listening, you do 2 things. You select what to pay attention to, and you make it mean something. So my definition of listening is making meaning from sound. In a fraction of a second, your pre-cortical brain tests every sound for danger. And then areas of your cortex test the sounds against your huge database of sounds you've heard before to seek meaning and choose the ones that merit your conscious attention. Human speech, music, and sudden sounds like alarms, we've already seen, are very good at getting your attention in general, but we all have slightly different databases and associations, which brings me to the first transformational perspective about listening. Your listening is unique, and so is everybody else's. The most common mistake people make when they're speaking is to assume everyone listens like I do. They don't. Why? Because we all listen through a set of filters that we've developed over our lifetime, starting with the culture we're born into, national, tribal, local, familial, the language we speak, the values, attitudes, and beliefs we take on board from parents, teachers, friends, role models, the assumptions we make about how life works and what goes on inside other people's heads. And then, in any given situation, our expectations and intentions, and of course, our emotions. Listening and upset, I think, are pretty much mutually exclusive. If you want to calm somebody down, listen to them. Equally, it's hard to listen when you're really upset. So listening changes over time for each individual, and it changes from person to person. Taken together, these filters create your unique reality. Perception is the map, not the territory, and your map is different from mine. The exciting thing about this is by changing your listening filters consciously, you can improve your reality. Now, let me give you the second transformational perspective about listening, which flows from the first one. You always speak into a listening. Whether it's 1-to-1 or 1 to thousands, there is a listening for you. This arises from the individual filters of all the people that you're speaking to, as well as from what they know about you. Your own actions create a listening for you, similar to a reputation. Put these 2 together and you have a listening that you are speaking into. This changes over time, as any of you who present immediately after lunch, which I often get to do, or at the end of a long day, will know. The listening changes over time, and it changes with each listener or each audience. So there's one vital question that any great speaker instinctively asks before opening his or her mouth. What's the listening I'm speaking into? What's the listening? Just by asking yourself this question every time you speak, you will get sensitive to the answer From probably tiny visual clues or maybe other subtle communications, really don't worry about the how. Just ask the question every time you speak, and you will get good at this essential skill. But what about your own listening? Well, I think there are 4 C's of effective listening. The first and most important one of all is consciousness, knowing that you're practicing a skill, you're doing work when you're listening. Consciousness is a requirement for any personal development, and listening is no exception. Second, there's commitment. Scott Peck said, "You cannot truly listen to another human being and do anything else at the same time," and I agree with him. The third attribute of effective listening is compassion, seeking to understand the other person. Even if you don't agree with them, you can understand how they got to their opinion. That's the foundation of democracy, which relies on civilized disagreement, something which, sadly, I think is under threat today all over the world. You know, politicians often go and have talks. I wish they'd go and have listens instead, don't you? Finally, there's the secret weapon of great listening, which is ferocious curiosity. Cast every conversation as an opportunity to learn, and you will gain so much. Remember, listening is a skill that dramatically affects your outcomes in life and the power of your speaking. Becoming a master takes practice. So at the end of this talk, as I said, I have a gift for you to help you in your journey to mastery. What about effective listening for an organization? Well, obviously that requires all the people in the organization to improve their own personal listening skills. Also, the organization probably needs communication, accountability, training, and real commitment from the top, because this doesn't happen overnight. Above all, the management must start listening, because this will not happen by sending an email around telling everybody, "Oh, we're now a listening organization." There are plenty of different groups to start listening to. Some of them are shown in the top line here. When I interviewed him for my book, former Franklin Covey CEO Hiram Smith told me this story.
I mean, you know, you've got a guy down on the line who created our binders, who came up with an idea for a new binder. Had we not been willing to listen to him, we missed about a $30 million opportunity, which it turned out to be.
So listening to even the most insignificant or lowly people in the organization can be enormously important. We must not judge books by the cover. Then there are probably changes to make in management, culture, training, reward structures, and so on, and maybe also in the physical spaces of your organization, which very often challenge effective listening. They're noisy, reverberant, difficult. And what are you listening for? You're listening for opportunities to win new business, or to serve your customers better, and of course for any dangers that may lie in wait. Most of all, I think you're listening for ideas and ways to engage your team. To sum up, I encourage all of you Toastmasters to become listening superheroes. It doesn't pay to castigate the people around you for poor listening, but it does work to explain the importance of listening, as I have, to encourage your family, your colleagues, and most of all, to show how it works by doing it yourself really well. Remember, there are only 3 things at stake: your happiness, your effectiveness, and your well-being. Now, I want to say thank you again for the great honor that you've bestowed on me, and also for listening to me today in this talk. I said I had a gift for you, and here it is. I will do a 1-hour webinar, absolutely free of charge, exclusively for Toastmasters within the next 2 weeks, where I will reveal the powerful exercises that I recommend for improving your personal listening skills. If I get time, I'll also go behind the scenes of my top 10 TED Talk, and then I will also answer your questions live. We can accommodate up to 5,000 people, and I think there are 45,000 of you listening now, so it's first come, first served, I'm afraid. But here's the URL. Just pop by juliantreasure.com/Toastmasters to sign up, and we'll send you all the details absolutely free of charge. Once again, Toastmasters, thank you for this honor and for this opportunity. You do a fantastic job, and I'm thrilled that my work is helping you in any way in your vital mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian, for sharing your incredible work with us. Please view a special offer from our Golden Gavel recipient by visiting www.juliantreasure.com/Toastmasters. You can find more information about Julian Treasure by visiting our speakers page on toastmasters.org. I'm eager to see you all again tonight for the Hall of Fame. Please visit the agenda found on the Toastmasters International's website for details. Thank you and have a wonderful day.